tax refund is here upon us. We've also got some stimulus money maybe. You want to invest? We've got great package deals that save you money. We've also got a set of 4 16-inch tires, 205, 55R16 for only $299, and that includes installation, balance, and tax included. And how about a set of 4 20-inch tires, 275, 55R20 for only $499, installation, balance, and tax included. And you can come visit us today at the store. For more details, or look us up on shampoozy.com. Thank you very much, folks.
From the R Communications Broadcast Center in McAllen, Texas, this is a Drive Home Special.
It's showtime!
Expected changes under a new presidential administration.
Let's do this!
This Drive Home Special is powered by Pueblo Tires and Service. Here's Sergio Sanchez.
This is News Talk 710 KURV. Today's special news presentation is pieced together by friends at Pueblo Tires and Service. Thanks to the Colonel and El Capitan. We're going to hear from El Capitan here pretty soon. Davis Rankin, Roxanne Flores, Zach Cantu, the mighty Joe Salinas is steering the ship. Our panelists today, we're focusing on 4 areas that the Biden administration will likely take a new direction or maybe stay the course. We're focusing on energy. And to help us with that, our friend Tim Snyder from Matador Economics. On trade, Keith Patridge, the Director of McAllen Economic Development Efforts. On the medical policy side, Dr. Carlos Cardenas, founder of DHR Health and also former president of the Texas Medical Association. And on immigration, a new friend of ours, Victor Avila, retired ICE agent. You may remember his name. He survived that ambush by the cartel in Mexico about a decade ago. His partner, Jaime Zapata, did not survive. Okay, Roxanne, you first.
First of all, thank you all so much for joining us. It's great to put the faces to the voices that we have on the program so often. My first question is for you, Mr. Snyder. I know we talked about this, I think it was yesterday or earlier this week, about the Keystone Pipeline. So in your words, can you please explain what the Keystone XL Pipeline is and why it's so important, not only for us here in Texas, but for our nation?
The Keystone XL Pipeline was, I have to say, an opportunity for the North American continent, and I'm talking about U.S. and Canada, to be able to take advantage of the more sour types of crude oil that come from Canada and what we call the tar sands. We were what the goal was is to bring down their tar sands crude down to the Gulf Coast, to the refineries down here on the Gulf Coast, blend that, displace the crude oil that we were bringing in from Saudi Arabia, for instance, most of the cartel, the OPEC cartel, and help develop greater U.S. energy security and thereby cementing U.S. national security.
And because we know that one of the first things President Biden did was cancel the Keystone XL pipeline, what's going to happen now that he did that?
There's a lot of speculation about that. I actually, on another radio show today, had an opportunity to interview former Congressman Charlie Stenholm. Charlie was from the area around Abilene, Texas. He now lives just southeast of Dallas. And we talked about that. And not only did he say that he feels like it was a mistake for the Biden administration to be able to do this, but the depths at which they're talking about disposing of the pipeline, they're talking about cutting it up, sending it off and selling it for scrap. There's all kinds of things that they're looking at. So they're going to destroy the infrastructure that we've been working on to try to help create additional energy security here in the United States. Charlie's a Democrat, that he was in Congress 29 years, and he does oppose this because he knows for Texas and for the U.S., this is not a good move.
You know who expressed displeasure as well, Tim? Tim Snyder, our guest from Matador Economics. It's Serge. Justin Trudeau up in Canada.
Right.
He expressed displeasure as well.
Can I ask a follow-up, Sergio?
Yes,
if the oil that was coming is not going to come, wouldn't that put pressure on oil prices, and that would be good for Texas oil producers and royalty receivers?
Let's look at this in the proper perspective. If the market was growing and we had the opportunity to help the producers live in the margins that we currently live in, that would exactly be the scenario. Unfortunately, with the environmental regulations that they're putting on, by virtue of the fact that if we still want to get Canadian tar sands crude, we now got to put it on the rail, which is more expensive and significantly more dangerous from a safety standpoint. All these things tighten margins, and it makes it more difficult for our companies to make profits from the crude oil that we're looking at, and it does force us out of and I'm going to use an economic term here, so y'all excuse me for this, but it forces us out of being the market maker, and it makes us the market taker.
Okay. It's Tim Snyder from Matador Economics. Davey, I noticed on text you have a question for Carlos Cardenas. Or
I do. After COVID-19 is under control, I should put that in quotes, perhaps, vaccines are given, et cetera. What would you like a Biden administration to do, or to push states, counties, localities to do to prepare for the next pandemic?
Well, I think that's a great way to look at it, Davis. First, let's start off with the big if. Lots of things got to happen in order for this to actually come to pass. As you know, the new variants that we have, and there are others that are probably coming, there's a good chance COVID's going to be with us for a while. The key to this is going to be mass vaccination for us to get it under control. Let's go ahead and fast forward and say that we get to a point where we have true control. We've got measures in place. I think, like with anything, we had the opportunity to learn from mistakes that were made. Quite frankly, I think that to politicize public health was a grave error. I would hope that in the future, we don't do that again. Taking care of your neighbor shouldn't be political. And I think that they're trying to move in that direction now. But basic public health measures we have in place that can help us if they're properly implemented, and they're in everyone's interest.
That is Dr. Carlos Cardenas. He's one of the founders of DHR Health, also recent president of the Texas Medical Association. Doc, how close are we from inoculating in Hidalgo County? I guess that would be your best perspective. How close are we from totally inoculating frontline medical providers, nurses, and nursing home folks, the most vulnerable in the community?
We still got quite a ways to go. However, I will say that I'm very, very pleased with the response that we have had. We have already, and I'm just talking about just at DHR Health, we have administered 22,500 vaccines, and that means 16,650 people have received their vaccination. Of that group, and these are hot off the press, 5,850 people are fully vaccinated. And so we're making some inroads. I think we've had some issues in the beginning with adoption. As with anything new, people have a hesitancy. As it is, we have a hesitancy with taking care of things we know about, like the flu and getting the influenza vaccine every day. I think that the moves and the focus that the new administration has on getting this on track is absolutely paramount, not only for the public health of our country, but for the economic health of our country, because we can't get back on track till we get this thing under control. I don't think there's anybody who disagrees with that. And we have the tools and we have the weapons. Yes, the cow's out of the barn, but we've got an opportunity to turn some things around. Vaccination is one part of that, but it's not the whole thing. We've got to continue to do the rest of the things that we're doing because we know it works and is effective against the disease. And that's the mask wearing, washing your hands, and maintaining social distance, because that's what keeps this from happening. Davis and I are probably old enough, as our other members on this call, to remember what it was like when we didn't have a vaccine against the measles.
Yeah.
Measles, all you had to do was be in the same room with somebody with measles. Well, this stuff's just like that. And most of us all got smallpox vaccines as children and have the scars to prove it. We eradicated smallpox off the face of the earth for the most part. It may be sitting in a biological warfare laboratory somewhere, but it's at least not out killing people like it was doing before. Again, vaccination, public health measures, they work. We didn't politicize those. We shouldn't politicize this. We need to move forward. And I think if we don't learn anything else from the past, this past year, it's that. It's my prayer that we won't experience again what we experienced this last summer.
That's Dr. Carlos Cardenas, former president of the Texas Medical Association. You are listening to a 710 KURV news special. We're simulcasting on Classic 92.7 FM, all of Cameron County. You can also join us live online. News Talk 710 KURV Facebook Live. You can post a comment there and a question there, and Zach will shoot that over to us as well. A new direction, an expert panel discussion on President Joe Biden's likely moves on energy, trade, medical policy, and immigration. Roxanne, back to you.
I do have a question for Mr. Keith Patridge. It's nice to see you, Keith. My first question to you is, will anything change with the new NAFTA, with the USMCA?
It's nice to be here, Roxanne. We don't believe so. It's still, we're in the second day of his term. And so we really haven't seen that much yet on trade, but with the respect to USMCA, that is a multi-nation, tri-nation agreement. And so it's fairly difficult for us to unilaterally change anything on that. So we anticipate, and the companies that we work with anticipate, that there will not be that many changes with respect to USMCA. There is still some questions about the trade relationship, in particular with China, because if you remember, under the Trump administration, we were pretty aggressive with China as far as tariffs. So the question is, will those tariffs be removed or not? And the general consensus right now is that probably not, at least initially, because politically it would be pretty difficult for them to remove those tariffs. Now, I don't believe that there will be an increase in the amount of tariffs, but I think there's probably going to leave pretty much alone status quo with that for the foreseeable future. And so I don't see a lot of yet a direction, quite frankly, in where he's going with trade.
That's Keith Patrick.
There are other things that will impact trade related to labor with the $15 an hour and the environmental regulations and things that will impact trade. But as far as the actual agreements, we don't see those being changed.
From the McAllen Economic Development Office, that's Director Keith Patridge. Keith, you told us a few weeks back, before Joe Biden was sworn in as president, that some of the industries and some of the companies that you've been speaking with were waiting. They were on holding pattern to make final decisions on investment here or expansion here. Are you hearing the phone ring again for a final decision to come to Reynosa or the McAllen area?
Actually, we are. I don't know whether it just happens to be in the chain of events right now, or whether it's because we have, there appears to be light at the end of the tunnel with respect to at least some of the COVID issues now that we have a vaccine. But we are seeing companies that are now moving forward with their projects. We had talked the last time that I had a chance to talk with you, Sergio, we were working with a lot of Chinese companies that, partially because of USMCA, partially because of the tariff issues that they're faced with 301 and 230 tariffs, they were very interested in moving operations to the United States. I will tell you that, as a matter of fact, tonight, as soon as this interview is over, we have a Zoom meeting with 80 companies in China tonight, specifically talking about operations here. We do have two that have already committed to Reynosa. One is shipping equipment. It will be here next week. Another is finishing up the legal aspects of setting up their operations here. And they're still being impacted by travel restrictions because of COVID, but they are moving forward, and we're seeing a number of other companies, not just from China, but also from Japan, Korea, and Europe, that are moving forward again with their projects.
One of the big issues that we discovered from COVID, the PPE, the medical equipment, and the repatriation of some of those therapies, medicinal things like pharmaceutical and medical equipment. We were hoping to hear of quick repatriation of some of that back to shore. What do you hear, Keith?
Repatriation, while we all see it taking place, it's going to take longer than expected, just simply because when you start trying to move a supply chain, it's not something you can do overnight. And so this is a longer term process, but yes, I think we'll continue to see that. And the Biden administration, on multiple occasions, has said he wants to continue to move to increase domestic production. So I think he's supportive of that as well.
We're exposed. It's time now. It's 4:23. This is News Talk 710 KURV. We're simulcasting on Classic 92.7 FM for the Rio Grande Valley. Also live on Facebook, News Talk 710 KURV. You can post a question there. Our expert panel, we're talking about the President Joe Biden policy changes or continuation of the Trump policy. As we have a new president up in Washington, we're talking energy, trade, medical policy, and immigration. For energy, Tim Snyder from Matador Economics. You just heard Keith Patrick from McAllen Economic Development. Dr. Carlos Cardenas is taking care of the medical issues and immigration. When we come back after this quick break, we'll speak with Victor Avila. He's a retired ICE agent, and that's one issue. Immigration, that's one issue that we definitely have seen big changes with the executive pen. This is News Talk 710 KURV. I'm Sergio Sanchez. Post your question, comment at 710 KURV Facebook Live for this news special. A big thank you to all the friends over at Pueblo Tires and Service, and let me head over to El Capitan.
Hello, folks. This is El Capitan from Pueblo Tires and Service, your family car care center. Hey, new year, new tire sale. At Pueblo Tires, it's where the best costs last. And we've got financial options up to 24 months to pay and no credit needed. That's right. Folks, we're local. We're family owned. 13 locations to serve you since 1972. And by the way, we are hiring. We are hiring. Hey, how about a car care tip for you? Warm brakes decreases stopping power. We can help you. Another car care tip for you. Winter days mean longer nights. Get your lights checked. We can help you. Campusi.com. Again, folks, on behalf of Pueblo Tires and Service, we love you. Take care. Be well. Come visit us today.
Your Fox News station for the Valley. This is News Talk 710 KURV.
Time is 4:25. News Talk 710 KURV. Simulcasting on Classic 92.7 FM. Live on Facebook as well. That's where you can post a question. The KURV news special today presented by Pueblo Tires and Service, Valley-wide. A new direction with the Joe Biden administration. We're focusing on policy issues related to trade, medical, immigration, and energy. On immigration, Victor Avila, our guest today, retired ICE agent. Man, we've seen a lot of news on immigration changes. Knowing that you're a retired ICE agent, Victor, you think ICE will survive? Because we recall all the headlines. Some of these Democrats, they want to get rid of ICE, shut down ICE. So what do you think? Does ICE survive in a Biden administration?
I think it will. I think the radical left, the AOCs of the world are going to realize that ICE is an agency that has to be here to enforce our immigration laws. Despite who's at the White House, the laws haven't changed. They're still there. It's the interpretation of the laws and how the Biden administration is going to allow ICE and Border Patrol to enforce those laws. And just like you mentioned before, Sergio, just yesterday, out of the 17 executive orders that he signed, 5 of those were immigration related. And so with the stroke of a pen. And so we're going to see major changes in immigration policy, the Remain in Mexico policy, asylum cases, and you're going to see an influx of a tremendous amount of caravans and undocumented people coming and trying and getting access to our country.
I think it's important, and I should have set the stage first. Victor Avila, retired ICE agent, please explain to working people what immigration customs enforcement, what ICE does day to day.
Yes, ICE, when people hear ICE, they kind of just go straight to the immigration part, but immigration enforces, ICE enforces all federal laws and federal violations that have a nexus or touches the border to the United States. And we're talking about any kind of smuggling, narcotics, and people, persons, and products. And so not only in immigration, but customs as well, and intellectual property rights, for example, counter-proliferation investigations. There's a whole trade is involved there, as we also enforce duties and commercial fraud, money laundering, human trafficking, human smuggling. I could go down the list. The HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, has a broad area that we investigate, and now more so, the emphasis has been on immigration, and it will continue to be, but we can't ignore the customs side of it that still will be very pertinent.
One of the headlines I recall from the past 24 hours, and Davis, Roxanne, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a report of 100-day delay moratorium on deportations, if I heard it right. Victor, does that mean that return to Mexico, not catch and release, but catch and return, is that now on hold at the border?
This is what makes it so unclear. As you know, under the Trump administration, because of COVID and the pandemic, that was a policy that was instituted under Title 42 to have people remain in Mexico or in their home country to seek asylum. Now that no one's going to be, if they're going to be detected at the border, are they going to, he's already said that he's going to end catch and release. And for people that don't understand, catch and release means catch by the U.S. Border Patrol and released into the United States, not released back to their home country, where most of us already know that we're never going to see them again. And so that policy is also questionable and to be gone. The Biden administration is going to basically undo every single policy that the Trump administration implemented during his 4-year term. Some of those are national security issue type of implementations that help secure our border, help secure the safety and security of our public. And I don't know how many of these things that President Biden is going to undo by the stroke of a pen is going to be a dangerous path moving forward, possibly.
Roxanne, I need to pitch it back to you. I think you had a question. Go ahead.
I do. I want to jump in here and ask something of you, Mr. Avila. Just try to help me understand, because whenever there is an issue, say Dr. Cardenas is an expert in his field, so is Keith, and so is Tim Snyder. But for some reason, the experts in ICE and Border Patrol agents, when it came to the border wall, that seemed to be brushed away, that your opinion doesn't matter, even though you work it every single day. And I know you're an advocate of the border wall, even though Biden has halted construction. Can you explain, as someone who's lived it, worked it, and expert in that field, why it's necessary?
And then that's absolutely a great point, because I saw it in my career, the disconnect between Washington, D.C. and the border, and how people in Washington, D.C. are making decisions based on what they think they know, and not really taking into account the people on the ground. And you're absolutely right. It's the men and women of Border Patrol that want the wall. They request the wall. They needed the wall. I wish I had the wall there when I was doing my investigations down the Texas border, when I saw numerous SUVs full of drugs just drive through the Rio Grande River, and backpackers, 16 of them carrying drugs, human smugglers coming through with absolutely no barrier. We know that the wall is not a solve-all issue when it comes to the security of the border, but it's definitely an additional tool that really helps the men and women of Border Patrol to focus on those areas where there is no wall, and really focus that traffic down to a certain area where they can respond. And so the 450 plus wall that was built, we've already seen the decrease in numbers of illegal activity come through those areas. And I'll put this example. What happened during the inauguration, the first two things that I saw go up was a wall and extra security for the inauguration. And I think that we need to do that in our border, build the wall, finish building the wall, and add additional security to secure our homeland.
Yeah, it lights back to what Roxanne was saying, based on what the experts know and have to say, the ones that work on the front lines. That's Victor Avila. He's a retired ICE agent, Immigration Customs Enforcement. He's part of our expert panel. We're talking about immigration issues, medical, trade, and energy, just some of the issues that our new president, Joe Biden, will need to tackle with his team. When we come back, after a quick mention from our underwriter for today, continue our conversation with Tim Snyder from Matador Economics. He's an energy expert. I've often said that the sunrise of the new valley economy is at the port of Brownsville, with the final investment decision for liquefied natural gas in billions of dollars. Well, what now? Well, with the Biden administration that doesn't seem to like fossil fuels too much. So is all the LNG future and the billions in investment for the area, is that now under fire? And we'll continue talking with Dr. Carlos Cardenas as well, if he had a chance to bend the ear of our new president, President Biden, some of the advice that he would give him. Stay tuned. This is News Talk 710 KURV, a special news presentation, A New Direction with President Joe Biden on immigration, medical, trade, and energy issues. We're simulcasting on Classic 92.7 FM. And post your question on News Talk 710 KURV Facebook Live. I'm Sergio Sanchez with the KURV News team. A big thank you to all the gang at Pueblo Tires and Service. And a word from El Capitan after news. News Talk 710 KURV. Time is 4:33.
Top and bottom of the hour news. This is News Talk 710 KURV.
4:33 on News Talk 710 KURV. Good afternoon. I'm Tim Sullivan. President Biden is putting into play his national COVID-19 strategy to ramp up vaccinations and testing and increase the use of masks, including a requirement that Americans mask up for travel. Biden signed 10 virus-related executive orders today as the nation is deep in the deadliest wave of the pandemic. The largest business lobbying group in the U.S. is supporting President Biden's early moves to confront the coronavirus. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce says Biden is correct that controlling the coronavirus is key to fully reopening the economy. The chamber says it supports the focus on removing roadblocks to vaccinations. Drug maker Eli Lilly says its COVID-19 antibody drug can prevent illness among residents and staff of nursing homes and other long-term care facilities. It is the first major study to show that it may prevent disease. U.S. regulators last year allowed emergency use of the treatment for mild or moderate COVID-19 cases. President Biden is expressing confidence in FBI Director Chris Wray, plans to keep him on the job. FBI directors are given 10-year terms, meaning leadership of the Bureau is generally unaffected by changes in presidential administrations. But right now, the FBI and other law enforcement agencies are under scrutiny about their preparations before the January 6th riot by pro-Trump extremists at the Capitol. A federal judge has released a Pennsylvania woman who faces charges she stole a laptop from the office of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi during the assault on the Capitol. Riley June Williams was released into the custody of her mother with travel restrictions. The 22-year-old Harrisburg resident is accused of theft, obstruction, trespassing, as well as violent entry and disorderly conduct. And there is a winner, or maybe winners, in last night's Powerball drawing. The $730 million winning ticket was sold in Maryland. And there were 7 runner-ups who won $1 million each for matching 5 of the 6 winning numbers. Wall Street today, the Dow closed down 12 points. The NASDAQ ended up 74. S&P 500 finished up 1 point. Your 710 KURV exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Mostly cloudy. It's going to stay drizzly through tonight, lows in the mid-60s. Cloudy and becoming partly sunny during the day tomorrow. Warmer as well with highs from 75 to 82. Right now, 61 at 710 KURV. News at the top and bottom of the hour and when it breaks and on demand at KURV.com. I'm Tim Sullivan, 710 KURV.
Hello, folks. This is El Capitan from Pueblo Tires and Service, your family car care center. Well, we're in 2021, and we're still the one that is here to serve you. We've been doing this for 48 years now, going into 49 years, and we just want to remind you and thank you for allowing us to serve you for all that time. And we're here to keep rocking. Tax refund is here upon us. We've also got some stimulus money, maybe. you want to invest, we've got great package deals that save you money. We've also got a set of 4 16-inch tires, 205, 55R16 for only $299, and that includes installation, balance, and tax included. And how about a set of 4 20-inch tires, 275, 55R20 for only $499, installation, balance, and tax included. And you can come visit us today at the store. For more details, or look us up on shampoozy.com. Thank you very much, folks.
News, talk, enough said. News Talk 710 KURV. KURV.com.
Time is 4:37. How time flies when you're having fun. You're listening to another KURV news special. Today's focus, a new direction with a new president, new administration, policy issues that President Joe Biden and his team will be tackling soon that will be affecting all of us. Our health, our pocketbook, energy, trade, medical, and immigration issues. I'm Sergio Sanchez, along with Roxanne Flores, Davis Rankin, and the KURV team. So our panel experts today on energy, Tim Snyder from Matador Economics, Keith Patridge from McAllen Economic Development, Dr. Carlos Cardenas, former president of the Texas Medical Association, and Victor Avila, retired ICE agent. We're talking about energy, trade, medical, and immigration issues. Again, post your question at News Talk 710 KURV Facebook Live. Roxanne, back to you.
This question is for Mr. Snyder. Tim, we know that President Biden has said he wants 100% renewable energy in the future. I guess 2 parts of that question. 1, what will that do to our oil and gas industry? And then 2, there's also LNG talks here in the Rio Grande Valley. What does that do for the potential LNG futures here in the Rio Grande Valley?
Yeah, let's talk about just the logistics of making this massive switch. It would be very difficult for us to to completely do away with the fossil fuels, because we have an infrastructure here in the United States and literally throughout the world that is dependent upon this lifeblood, this crude oil, natural gas, natural gas, but gasoline, diesel, the refined products, and those kinds of things. It's difficult to completely replace what we have. And then there's the flip side of this that we have to be very careful, and they're going to have to look at, because if you replace this and we decide that we're going to go to this all electric type of economy, what do we do with batteries? Batteries are as toxic to the environment as the reason why we don't do nuclear energy anymore, because you got a 1,000-year half-life on some of these, spent rods that we're dealing with in nuclear. So we've got that. We've got the fiberglass blades that we have on these wind turbines, these big giant wind turbines that we have throughout most of West Texas. And so when you look at that, you have to understand that the infrastructure is not there to make that transition. Right now, to be able to make a smooth transition, it would probably, we estimate, about 25 years to be able to smooth out the rough patches of what we're dealing with and go to that type of an economy. It also takes that amount of time to counterbalance the economic output from removing our dependence on the fossil fuels, and that's a very significant issue. Now, as it relates to the valley and the opportunities that you guys have down there with regards to natural gas and LNG and those kinds of things, I believe that natural gas will be the step, the intermediate step that we're going to probably use to begin to tailor off as much as we can from the crude oil type products that are refined and made into the distillate products, the gasoline, jet fuel, diesel fuel, those kinds of things. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity. I also believe that businesses are looking for opportunities to where, from an economic standpoint, we can continue to go forward. We've got copious amounts of natural gas, not just in the Eagle Ford, but in the Ruggles Basin that's just south of you guys. We've got a significant amount of natural gas in the southern portion of the Permian Basin. We've got natural gas in the Marcellus and several other shale plays. So we have good opportunities here, and it's my hope that industry is going to look at this opportunity and take advantage of it. I think it'd be a big benefit to the valley.
It sounds to me, Tim, that was Tim Snyder from Matador Economics talking on energy issues that perhaps the Biden presidency will be tackling here pretty soon. But it sounds to me like we're talking about 2 separate rail tracks and describing LNG. So you don't see a threat to this LNG export market as far as the creation of all these jobs and the billions and investment to South Texas? Not yet?
No, I don't see it yet. Matter of fact, I think I see it expanding, Sergio.
Okay, because it's cleaner energy and it provides billions of dollars in new business.
And cost. It's probably the second least expensive fuel that we have aside from coal.
To Dr. Carlos Cardenas, our medical expert, former president of the Texas Medical Association. So the headlines of late, Charlie, would be open up schools, says our new president. And some governors, Democrat governors who've been lock and key, they threw the key away. They found it, and they're saying they need to open up again quickly, open up business. This is unsustainable. And President Biden says we need to open up schools for the little ones, the little bitty kids. So if you had a chance to bend the ear of President Biden, what does the Biden camp do different from Trump team in order to get there as quickly as possible in a safe manner?
Well, I think that he's got to continue to move forward, stay the course, and double down on our ability to test, make it possible to test more people, more potential folks working in the public schools and in other areas, in frontline workers in grocery stores, and all of the basic things that make it possible for people to continue to work in their jobs. And so that we can isolate and treat those who are exposed at the same time that we're vaccinating and implementing all the public health measures that we're talking about, and moving forward with a comprehensive plan to make that possible, and recognizing that it's not going to be overnight. This virus moved very, very quickly, and at the same time, it pointed out, I think, disparities that existed in certain populations, that it isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. We have certain communities within the country that need special attention, but everything still revolves around the ability to test, vaccinate, isolate, do the things that we need, that we know work, and put the resources there. And what I heard was basically a pledge to move in that direction. It's going to take time. There is certainly issue that we had issues early in the pandemic with supply of the appropriate equipment to protect ourselves and our frontline workers. And I think there's some other things that are percolating underneath that nobody's really looking at right now, but are looming problems for the future. One of those is that this occurred in the middle of a nursing shortage nationwide. This is going to be more acute at the end of this, and we need to make it possible for our schools and our institutions that help us to train that next group of people coming up, for us to be able to meet the demand. And I think it was alluded to earlier, this is one pandemic, we will have others. And I think we've learned some lessons, and we'll be able to move forward, but we need to plan for it. And we need to build the human infrastructure that's necessary to properly care for people. And that means working with all members of the healthcare workforce and strengthening that workforce and making it something that'll be, be our wall against the microbes that don't understand that there are borders.
And a note from Zach. Zach, thanks. He was noting that also in the news, a proposal from the Biden camp, the package is money for PPE for teachers and other reimbursements related to testing and PPE. That was Dr. Carlos Cardenas, with a former president of the Texas Medical Association. Davis, I know you have a question for Patrick. Back to you.
Well, the legislature is meeting, which can be good and bad, but it does give an opportunity to come up with new incentives to offer the businesses which are now looking at us, who are soured on China. What should they do? What should the state of Texas offer? What should cities and counties offer up to lure business, to make it attractive? Or do they need to do anything?
Well, I think from the standpoint of new companies coming in, there are several things that they look for, but to look at it from an overall overreaching, they're looking at being able to do business, which means getting set up, being able to operate with with a minimal amount of disruption from regulatory environment or time that regulatory environment takes. But the real big issue right now is labor and labor availability. One of the things that we are finding, and there's for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. It's good that we have we're giving the monies for COVID relief for people who are unemployed. However, what we are finding, and it's happening everywhere, is we're seeing people who are not going back to work, either because they're afraid of COVID or for some other reason. And we actually have labor shortages across the country. Just as Dr. Cardenas mentioned about nursing, it's that way in just about every sector. So labor is becoming in manufacturing, labor is becoming the key component that companies are looking for. And if you have a labor component that is also educated or trained, then you really have what they're looking at. So I think that's part of why there's a focus, or has been a focus, with Texas Workforce Commission on skills training and really helping communities prepare that workforce for jobs. One other thing that I want to mention too is that again, it's because of COVID. You're seeing a very quick move towards adaptation of automation, robotics, simply because COVID, in a manufacturing environment, it's very difficult to maintain a 6-foot buffer between humans or people. And it's also difficult in some cases to wear the mask and the protective gear. And so what a lot of companies are doing is replacing people with automation, simple robotics. And robots now are getting fairly easy to program, and they're fairly reasonably priced. We're afraid that if this $15 an hour minimum wage goes into effect, that will further hasten the development of, or the adaptation of automation and robots in operations, not just in manufacturing, but in things like restaurants. You're already seeing it where restaurants are moving more towards pay by either phone or other pay methods, and pickup rather than in house eating and things like that. Sure. So COVID is having a tremendous impact beyond just the medical ramifications, and that's not going to change, I don't think.
Well, let me lob it back to Tim Snyder, the expert in the oil patch. Of the numerous conversations we've had through the years, Tim, and all the millions of individuals employed at the oil patch, well, they're no longer there. Do you think we can tell some of these folks to go back to junior college and pick up some of those automation assembly gigs and start developing the automation that will replace the $15 an hour worker in your future? Are there enough people out there to go back and fill those jobs? That, as Keith was saying, labor's an issue right now.
Yeah, it is. And you got to remember, I know these people. I know a lot of them. A lot of my friends are in the patch. I've got several people, as you well know. I have a daily commentary that I write, economic commentary on the issues in oil industry, oil and gas industry, and so many of these young folks and people my age even are looking at what's going to happen with labor. There's a pride in working in this field. It's hard work, and it takes people that can handle hard work, and it's a tough job. And the hours were long. The pay was wonderful, and this is all just an economics dream, because you've got all the right things happening at the right time. It's the perfect nexus of these kinds of things. It's hard to break somebody's heart and have them come back to the oil patch, but they do it, and they do it readily. We've had boom and bust cycles for generations. And I will tell you, I remember 1987 in the spring, May of 1987, I was in Odessa, Texas, the day that schools let out. And I watched a caravan of people moving. It totaled 28,000 people left Odessa, Texas, leaving the Permian Basin, because back in 1987, we had terrible oil prices. We weren't developing the industry like we needed to have it develop. And I watched these people leave. Yet, back just 10 years ago, as we started to shift back and started to build back that industry, those people came back in the same kind of droves that they left. So yeah, I think they'll still be there. I think the opportunities are there. Technology is going to be very difficult. We've got to innovate on the oil and gas side if we're going to be able to do something and follow that technology. Keith, it'd be wonderful to see that sort of thing, because to be real honest with you, we've replaced a lot of the tool pushers and the guys that throw the chains on the rigs with some technology that's made it safer. So hey, there's a safety and an economic benefit all the way around.
That is Tim Snyder from Matador Economics. Time is 4:52. Joe, let's take care of our supporters. We're talking about a new direction under President Joe Biden, some policy issues that will be affecting us in the Rio Grande Valley, all the nation, but specifically for us, immigration, medical, trade, and energy issues. Your questions, comments, welcome. We have just a few minutes left. Post your comment at News Talk 710 KURV Facebook Live. Tim Snyder with energy, Keith Patridge with trade, Dr. Carlos Cardenas with medical issues, immigration issues with Victor Avila. I'm Sergio Sanchez with Roxanne Fotis, Davis Rankin. A very big thank you to our supporters, Pueblo Tires and Service, and let's go back to El Capitan.
Hello, folks. This is El Capitan from Pueblo Tires and Service, your family car care center. Hey, new year, new tire sale. At Pueblo Tires, it's where the best costs last. And we've got financial options up to 24 months to pay and no credit needed. That's right. Folks, we're local. We're family owned. 13 locations to serve you since 1972. And by the way, we are hiring. We are hiring. Hey, how about a car care tip for you? Warm brakes decreases stopping power. We can help you. Another car care tip for you. Winter days mean longer nights. Get your lights checked. We can help you. Campusi.com. Again, folks, on behalf of Pueblo Tires and Service, we love you. Take care. Be well. Come visit us today.
The Digital Goddess, Kim Commando. Weekends on News Talk 710 KURV.
Got about 5 minutes left in the program. KURV News Special, new direction under President Biden for immigration, medical, trade, and energy. Roxanne, back to you.
I read this morning, this question is for Mr. Avila, that there are around 8,000 people already forming a caravan heading to the Rio Grande Valley or to the United States. How does President Biden stop these caravans?
Well, that's going to be a very interesting relationship that President Biden is going to establish with the president of Mexico, López Obrador, because there was a kind of a weird thing that happened with the relationship between President Trump and President Obrador in Mexico. They were able to agree, at least on the immigration side, that Mexico was going to cooperate, and they did. They formed their National Guard down there and held a lot of the individuals trying to come through their country. What we expect to see under the Biden administration is hopefully some of that cooperation, and even more so with Mexico. We've seen in Central America, where the individuals coming from Honduras and Guatemala trying to stop them. And I think at one point they will make it to Mexico. We'll have to wait and see how much of Mexico's cooperation will be involved there. And once, in fact, they do make it to our southern border, what the policy is going to be. Are they just going to let them all in? Are we going to be overwhelmed again with the camps, with the family units, and the chaos that comes with the enormous amount of people coming at one time?
Spot on analysis. I don't recall who it was, but about 2 days ago, I heard somebody say everything President Biden hopes to achieve, especially on the medical side, to try to get rid of this coronavirus situation we're in. Trade, energy, put it all. If we get that situation again at the border, we have a border crisis, all of that could be derailed really quick. We have just a few minutes left, so let me go step by step here with each of our experts to close out the program. And so I'm going to give approximately 30, 45 seconds for each of y'all on the different topics that we bring up. You first, Dr. Cardenas, Dr. Carlos Cardenas, a former president of the Texas Medical Association. In the first 100 days of the Biden administration, what are you looking for from President Biden on medical issues?
I'm looking for him to double down on vaccination, helping us to plan for the infrastructure, what I call human capital that we're going to need moving forward to be able to fight the next one, to continue to help us make the supply lines work, and looking for him to look for cultural sensitivities in different pockets in our community that were particularly hard hit because of their cultures. The virus doesn't discriminate. And so I think he's moving in the right direction, helping people to understand that vaccination is the key, along with the public health measures we have in place, and to continue to follow the science on this.
Brother Charlie, I appreciate your time. Have you gone fishing in that lake that's behind you there in the hill country where you're at right now? Have you gone fishing? You can't see this on the radio. The background is beautiful hill country. He's got a lake behind a little.
That's his private lake.
I wish.
First 100 days. What do you expect to see from President Biden when it comes to trade? Keith Patridge, McAllen Economic Development. Go ahead, brother.
Well, and it's a little strange, but I think I support 100% what Dr. Cardenas just said, because if we can't get this COVID issue and this pandemic under control, trade is going to be a very difficult thing to bring back. So I think that's number one. So I also am pleased to see what he's doing so far, or what he indicates he wants to do. Then I'm hopeful that we will just kind of stay the course with where we are on trade. And I think, as I mentioned, he has not indicated anything dramatically changed. He is supporting domestic increases in production. And I think if we can just keep the regulatory environment in check, and we can also look very carefully at how we handle the wage and the cost issue, why I think we'll be fine. But if we start getting costs out of control, or the regulatory environment gets to be an onerous burden, then you'll see companies continuing to look for other options.
For that one, and a good point, Keith. Yeah, on what Dr. Carlos was saying. Yeah, fix COVID first. Yeah, we can even open up the Mexico and Canadian border. First 100 days of the Biden administration on energy. Tim, about 30 seconds. Go ahead, brother.
I'm going to say that I ditto what Dr. Cardenas said, because correcting the coronavirus issue as we stand today opens our economy up, it increases demand, and puts us back in shape. So I look for this focus on there if we possibly can. We know his focus is going to be on energy and green energy, not necessarily fossil fuels. So we're watching for that.
And I know I'm going to go over just a few seconds. Victor Avila, thank you for joining us today on immigration. We've seen so much on immigration already. The next 99 days, what do you expect to hear from the Biden administration?
I hope that he makes the decisions based on facts and not on feelings. I hope that he listens to the women and men of CBP on the ground and makes those sound decisions that benefit the safety and security of our homeland. And what everybody else has said in the panel, the influx of these individuals coming to our country, we don't know, besides COVID, what other things that we have to deal with. And so that's another thing that we have to take into consideration as well.
Tim Snyder, Keith Patridge, Dr. Carlos Cardenas, Victor Avila. Folks, thank you for joining us today and your insight. This is KURV Edinburgh, and a big thank you to our family at Classic 92.7 FM South Padre Island.
Now sweeping action to beat back the virus.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Aggressively respond to the coronavirus.
Bye. Have a great week.
We'll move heaven and earth to get more people vaccinated for free.